Hi, this is I'll Explain. This time I'll explain the Gelgoog. Gelgoog model number MS-14A is the first and last mobile suit where all Zeon Arsenal collaborate in its development and production. While it seems Zeon had very little to counter Gundam and other Federation mobile suits, Zeon did plan for a replacement of Zaku 2 before the outbreak of the One-Year War. They also predicted as the Federation deployed their own mobile suits, an eventuality based on Zeon's own research, melee combat would become the standard anti-mobile suit tactic for mobile suits. The Zaku 2 replacement would therefore be melee combat focused, and that would later be known as the Goof. While Goof did very well against most Federation mobile suits, it eventually encountered and was beaten by the Gundam, and not just by the one piloted by Amuro Ray either. And so the wider deployment of Goof was abandoned, although they were still being deployed as specialist mobile suits, which we would talk about in its own video. Back to the Gelgoog's development, Zeon was shocked that Federation was deploying miniaturized beam weapons along with their mobile suits, so Zeon was scrambling to put miniaturized beam weapons on their mobile suits as well. Not that Zeon didn't try or had not put beam weapons on their mobile suits, but at the time they were limited to amphibious mobile suits, the Gelgoog series, which weighs at least twice as much as Zaku and have to couple their large reactor with a water cooling system to prevent overheating or even meltdown. Having said that, it is still the most possible solution for Zeon if they want to deploy a Zaku successor with any beam weaponry. Another problem that Zeon had encountered was how poorly the original Zaku 2C and Zaku 2F adapted to battlefields on Earth. Sure, Zeon produced a number of revolutionary aerial, ground and aquatic support vehicles to aid them, but they do not possess the same efficiency as Zaku do when facing Federation military vehicles, and Zeon has a huge disadvantage in their numbers, as well as logistics. They have to have mobile suits that can adapt to battlefields on Earth. While they did develop a number of Zaku variants to adapt to Earth, these variants had sacrificed their efficiency in space for that. Given Zeon only possessed 1/30th of the Federation's production capacity, or maybe 1/20th after they occupy half of the moon, making more variants is not sustainable, and Zeon need to have the Zaku successor that is truly all-terrain, at least being effective on ground and in space. So every next Zeon mobile suit could be used in any given theater, especially when Zeon need to have an army that can hop between space and Earth should the war last longer, which in hindsight we know wouldn't happen, but Zeon wasn't planning to lose. I think this is the point where we should talk about how Gelgoog brought all Zeon's arsenal together. Zeon had three major heavy machinery manufacturers: Zeonic, Zimet, and MIP. They were all founded to provide heavy machinery for Side 3, and they had naturally found their way into Zeon's political core, if not being strong-armed into it. They have been providing military hardware for Zeon from the very beginning, running arsenals for Zeon, and had participated in the invention of mobile suits. In fact, Zeon had the three manufacturers come up with their own designs of mobile weapon that Zeon would bring to their independent war. While Zeonic had won the competition with the Zaku, Zeon didn't shut down Zimet and MIP. Instead, they were encouraged to develop parts and weapons for the Zaku or even develop new mobile suits, since Zeonic was occupied with high-priority projects. Eventually, MIP found their calling in developing auxiliary Minovsky generators and miniaturized megaparticle beam cannons, as well as mobile suit limb designs and the slightly less relevant updated version of their mobile armor concept. Zemet was not outdone either. They focused their energy into pursuing the development of faster mobile suits and developed the R-type or high mobility type of the Zaku 2. The Type R package is mainly made out of new backpack and legs with bigger thrusters that are relatively light in weight, making the Type R faster and has higher fuel efficiency than Type S. The Type R was also adopted for Earth, referred to as High Mobility Surface Type or Type GD. The Type GD thrusters are designed to operate in ground effect or hover mode, allowing the Zaku 2 GD to skate on the ground or even water surface. Zemet didn't stop at Type R or GD either. They pushed the envelope further and developed the Dome. In fact, the Gelgoog is a collaboration between MIP and Zemet. While MIP made the prototype, it was finished by Zemet, who made great strides in drag reducing mobile suit external designs with the development of Dome. Zeon also wanted to standardize the internal parts used for different mobile suits. Sure, the groove was developed from the Zaku and Dome have prototype based on Zaku and groove. The Gelgoog that we have been talking about was developed from Zaku Marine type, but as development and production went on, their parts became more specialized to their specific mobile suit models. This further hampers Zeon's significant disadvantage in logistics, so Zeon also wanted the Zaku successor to be made with new standardized parts. This push to standardize as many parts of Zeon mobile suits are known as Maintenance Unification Project, and the Zaku successor would use these parts. And so, Zeon figured their Zaku successor would be based on the Gelgoog. They would need the company who have been managing Zaku production to standardize the parts for this Zaku successor. So Zeon, for the first time, got Zeonic, Zemet, and MIP together to make the Zaku successor, the Gelgoog, a reality as soon as possible. To ensure the new standardized parts would be compatible with the Zaku 2, the first prototype Gelgoog is actually MS-06R3 or Zaku Type R3, before any of the YMS-14s were built. YMS-14, as we have covered, are pre-production models handed to Ace pilots to provide feedback, and what we have here are known as MS-14A, the standard production model, and for the first time for Zeon, a mobile suit that was produced the same way across all arsenals. Now that we know why Gelgoog seems to take a very different turn compared to the development of other Zeon mobile suits, let's take a closer look. Starting from the head, at a glance the Gelgoog's head looks like a far departure from the Zaku's. However, if we look at the features, we will find it very similar to the Zaku's. The peg nose is actually the front radiator, like the Zaku 2. The ribs around the head are covering the pulse pipe like you would find on a Zaku 2 too. The back fin can be found on the Zaku 1, although Gelgoog has enlarged it for a bigger radiator. The mono-eye tracks got more armor to cover it too, as these lower angles on the side are rarely used since the head can turn as well. The torso is based on the Gelgoog with the egg shape to ensure there is enough internal volume to feed a Minovsky reactor large enough for using beam weapons. It was also updated to be more like Gelgoog, with hip articulations for the all-important mobile suit versus mobile suit melee combat. The cooling system is also updated to use radiators instead of water cooling, and we can see vents around the top and the bottom. The cockpit is right in the middle, again like the Gelgoog. This also allows the central block to be used as an escape pod, a feature that Zeon wished they had gone with from the beginning of the war. Sure, the Zaku seats or most Zeon mobile suits sit before Gelgoog can jettison out like those on military aircrafts, but the pilots are largely unprotected, so even if they had jettisoned out of the mobile suit, their survival rate is severely lower compared to Federation, who thus uses an escape pod system. Moving down to the skirts and legs, they are relatively plain on the fronts. That is because all the fun parts are on the back. The main thrusters are installed on the back skirt, and the leg thruster are substantial as well. Gelgoog's lower body is modeled after Gframe, the dome space type in short. Of course, the Gelgoog is an all-terrain type, so this arrangement would allow Gelgoog to skate along the ground like Dome and Zaku 2 GD. This design also has the benefit of thick armor, relatively low drag, and with any luck, can be used for future Gframe production as well. Gelgoog's arms looks like a brand new design at the first glance, but it is actually a hybrid of the Gog and Goof's arms. Under the shoulder armor, you can see a ball-shaped shoulder is from Gog, a MIP design that can provide more torque and bear more weight compared to other Zeon designs. The forearm is made to reserve room for optional modules like the Goof. For the Type A nuclear thermal thruster unit is installed, partly for providing additional thrust for extra mobility, but mainly for having auxiliary generators to provide as much power as possible for the use of beam weapons. Unlike generators installed in beam bazookas, generators on the forearms are protected by Zaku's armor and can be shifted to other functions, like powering auxiliary thrusters. And if Zeon comes to a point where they cannot afford those auxiliary generators, they can replace them with weapon pods or even just leave them out entirely. The shoulder armor is designed to be able to house additional thrusters, but for the Type A, or at least this example here, it is left out entirely and is just a hunk of armor. The Gelgoog, at least in the more bare-bone configuration like the Type A and Type S, does not have a backpack. The simple answer is that it does not need one, since the main thrusters have been moved to the skirt and the leg thruster are plenty powerful. However, Zaku also planned to retrofit Zaku variants backpacks on the Gelgoog for different missions or role requirements. We will cover that in a near future, but for now, Gelgoog just has a hardpoint for the shield to hang and another one for a beam Naginata holster clamp. Now once again we come to Gelgoog's weaponry, and just like the Type S, Type A simply has a beam rifle, beam Naginata, and a shield. This setup pretty much mirrors the Gundam, the entire reason Zeon need to push this project hard in the first place. Zeon didn't give Gelgoog close-in weapon system like the Falcons on the Gundam because, like we have mentioned, Gelgoog is designed for anti-mobile suit combat first. And with Federation moving their pilots to mobile suits, they would not have as much space jets. Another reason is that Zeon, at a logistical disadvantage, would still have to deploy Zakus along with the Gelgoog, and the Zakus with their Zaku machine guns would provide plenty of AA support. While both assessments are correct, Zeon did plan 4 Gelgoog-based support variants should Zeon manage to last long enough, and they would need fleets entirely made up of Gelgoogs. As for fighting Federation battleships, the Gframe with their bazookas should get the job done if Gelgoog's beam rifle, made to match the performance of the one used by Gundam with firepower of a beam cannon on a battleship, isn't enough in the first place. And again, if Zeon get into a better position, they can simply have Gelgoog using bazookas like the Battle of Loom, but without the nukes. The beam Naginata is designed to give Gelgoog more reach and a wider range of fighting styles compared to the beam saber. Again, Zeon determined melee would be the primary anti-mobile suit tactic, and giving their standard mobile suits more advantage in melee should give them more advantage in mobile suit on mobile suit battles. The shield is much larger compared to those used by Zakus or Goofs. This once again mirrors the Gundam, where the shield can cover most of the mobile suit from wherever it is facing. It also has a fission slit like the Gundam's shield. Anti-beam coating is added because Zeon predicted the Federation would widely deploy beam weaponry. The shield also has a couple of holster points for the beam Naginata. Oh, I should mention Gelgoog does not have holster charging points for their beam weapons ECAP like the Federation mobile suits. Since Gelgoog already have auxiliary generators in their forearms, so on rare occasions, if Gelgoog's beam weapons ECAP ran dry, it has to hold on to them for recharge if it cannot fall back to its mothership or base. A non-issue if Zeon wasn't fighting on its back foot and had to repel as much Federation force as every single mobile suit had to. In fact, not only did Zeon not get to launch their counter-strike with any Gelgoog fleet, Zeon barely had 200 ready for Zeon's final line of defense, Aku, including all pre-production units and variants. This is an impressive number considering how late Gelgoog's production had begun, but far from enough to bridge Zeon's numerical disadvantage. In addition, unlike the Federation's GM and Ball, Gelgoog was not easy to handle, especially when the pilot tries to unleash its better overall performance than the Gundam. Yeah, Zeon went with that propaganda, which isn't completely untrue since Gelgoog was designed to use beam weaponries with or without ECAPs, so it does have a more powerful main reactor, at least up to RX-78-2. The Gelgoog is also about 1.5 times heavier, so it would have more total thrust compared to the Gundam. Anyways, all of this just means it is hard for the pilots to learn how to handle the Gelgoog, whether you are a new recruit or a veteran pilot. The latter would have been fighting with Zaku and Gouf and don't rarely get to handle any beam weaponry and would need to learn all of the quirks of the Gelgoog all over again. As for new recruits, if they were lucky enough to go through the full mobile suit piloting training curriculum, they would be fine, except they did not have any combat experience. Luckily, Zeon did give their remaining ace pilots pre-production models, so at least those guys would be contributing, and many of them survived the final stage of the war thanks to that. Gelgoog, like many mobile suits in the One-Year War, continued to be used and developed afterwards. In fact, Gelgoog and Gelgoog variants can be seen at the forefronts of many Zeon remnant insurgents, and some were brought into Orc before they got new mobile suits from Anaheim. Even some Federation units on Earth or space would use Gelgoog with or without modifying their mono-eye because of their speed and armor, and also their capture equipment, which hurt the budget a lot less. Even nearly a decade later, the Gelgoog or Gelgoog was used in the first Neo-Zeon War, with relatively little change that it is still considered as a MS-14 model. Gelgoog also has a couple of successors, again being used by both if not every side. Not to mention the maintenance unification project also brought new life into Zaku's, Gouf, and Domes. Like many Zeon mobile suits, Gelgoog is very successful, but it is developed or put into production in the wrong place and wrong time, without proper support, and was ultimately defeated by Federation because of that. And also because Federation was a much bigger war machine, but that's a lot less relevant in individual battles. Thanks for watching.